Should Kamala Harris run for California governor in 2026 after polls show her leading? I'm going to give that a big no. Yeah.
She's had her chance several times.
She should run far, far away.
Yeah, I think Kamala Harris would make a great president of a university. Why put her out there? It looked like when your dad goes with the young woman to help buy a car, when dad comes along. I mean, why? She hadn't done an interview in so long. Or maybe that's the strategy. They look like a married couple. They look like every interracial couple in every commercial.
Maybe that's the. No, but they messed it up because they didn't do the optics right because she looked like she was only 2 feet tall and he was up front looking like Frosty the Snowman. So they failed. But I see what they were going for.
Just protect Plan B. She is Plan B. Harris would be the first woman president, first black woman president, and first Asian president. But I don't vote for who will be the first. I vote for who will win. And for whatever reason, Harris has never been popular. You can count the number of delegates she won in the 2020 primaries on one hand, as long as that hand has no finger. In 3 years as vice president, she's been quieter than an electric car. Sometimes life isn't fair. It's not fair that she's not popular. She's intelligent and accomplished, and in fact was put in charge of the border. And look at how... Okay, bad example.
With his trademark sneer and razor-sharp takedown, Bill Maher is back at it again, targeting the woke mob, and this time his target is none other than Kamala Harris, the queen of awake herself. What specifically did Kamala say that caused Maher to unload on her, and how did his response leave her running for cover? Oh, believe me, you don't want to miss this one. Buckle up, because it's going to get vicious. Maher quietly but completely brutally dissected Kamala's most recent train disaster of a moment.
Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't. How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw is about 2%.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occurred.
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen.
The woke crowd simply cannot stop lying. They have misrepresented the economy and everything else. Their favorite pastime is science, education, immigration, and more. So it's not surprising that Kamala Harris is back at it, this time telling a story about the border wall. Remember how she called Trump's wall stupid? Well, it turns out she wants to build one too, but this is where it gets really funny. She is not only advocating for the identical thing she disparaged, but she even insulted Trump for bringing it up in the first place. Her hypocrisy is astounding.
He was a very different person on the stage 4 years ago when you debated him. That's certainly true, is it not?
Anderson, the point has to be performance in terms of what a president does. A president who incites an insurrection against the Capitol. No, but I got the point that you're making about a 1.5 hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
I mean, can you say that you are not concerned at all having watched the president's performance tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point. I'm talking about the choice in November.
In addition to lying, Kamala Harris is an expert at obfuscation. She skirts inquiries, avoids direct responses, and obscures any meaningful answer with a pile of illogical phrases. Word salad, and let's be honest, she's counting on her amiable left-leaning interviewers to ignore her. Even if they do notice, they'll simply edit her endless babble into something vaguely understandable. But here's the big shocker. In fact, CNN broadcast her gaffes uncensored. Yes, CNN, the network that essentially supports this administration, had to cut her interview short at times because her word salad was so embarrassing, similar to the one you're about to watch. When even the woke media grows weary of woke propaganda, you know it's bad. Perhaps they couldn't find a way to make her sound confident this time.
Time of crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction.
After years of covering Kamala Harris, CNN finally realized they couldn't continue the act any longer. They had to acknowledge that it wasn't working, so they did the unthinkable and exposed her, letting her word salads speak for themselves and demonstrating to the world what happens when an unqualified politician is supported by media spin. America needs a strong, decisive leader with a clear vision, real goals, and a real plan to restore the greatest nation on earth to its former glory. Kamala Harris is demonstrating day after day that she is not that leader, as Bill Maher has been saying for years. The country is in chaos, the economy is struggling, crime is on the rise, the border is a disaster, and the people are tired.
Just protect Plan B. She is Plan B. Harris would be the first woman president, first black woman president, and first Asian president. But I don't vote for who will be the first. I vote for who will win. And for whatever reason, Harris has never been popular. You can count the number of delegates she won in the 2020 primaries on one hand, as long as that hand has no fingers. In 3 years as vice president, she's been quieter than an electric car. Sometimes life isn't fair. It's not fair that she's not popular. She's intelligent and accomplished, and in fact was put in charge of the border. And look at how... Okay, bad example.
Because she simply cannot connect with people, Harris has never been popular. No matter how many interviews she does or how many stage photo ops she attends, she always comes off as forced, awkward, and completely out of touch. She uses cliches, laughs inappropriately, and uses word salad that is so incoherent that even her own supporters cringe. Let's face it, her unpopularity isn't just a Republican talking point. Even Democrats aren't thrilled about her. Every attempt to rebrand her as a capable leader has failed, and her approval ratings have been in the gutter since day one. This is because you cannot manufacture charisma or fake authenticity, and you cannot lead a nation when you are unable to connect with its citizens. The worst part is that you are ignoring the issues that actually affect regular Americans. She never focused on leadership programs or solving the nation's issues. Instead, she centered her whole campaign on identity politics. Checking boxes was the main focus. Sadly, I don't think Kamala Harris has a bright future in politics. Sure, she would have been the first black woman president, but how does it put food on people's tables, cut gas costs, stop crime, or protect the border?
Should Kamala Harris run for California governor in 2026 after polls show her leading? I'm going to give that a big no. Yeah.
She's had her chance several times.
She should run far, far away.
Yeah, I think Kamala Harris would make a great president of a university.
It wasn't just a takedown, it was a masterclass in exposing political fraudulence. The best part is that this isn't some right-wing commentator going after Kamala. It's Bill Maher, a liberal who's been in the game for decades, and even he couldn't stand the absurdity anymore. He delivered his sardonic wit and his trademark smirk, which cut right through the nonsense. This time, his target was none other than Kamala Harris. He didn't just criticize her, he dismantled her piece by piece, tearing apart her empty rhetoric, her blatant hypocrisy, and her inability to answer a simple question without degenerating a word salad disaster. She's in serious trouble because, in the end, the American people can only withstand so much gaslighting before reality hits them in the face, and Ma simply did the slapping for them. Even if you don't believe this garbage, you can tell when even Mara is calling her out. Regretfully, other media outlets have also observed Harris's unintelligible digressions. Here's what CBS found.
The work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. Well, let's start with this. On this subject, the aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And I think that is the most recent example of why what we do to assist in their defense around military aid is important. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks.
Imagine Kamala Harris as President of the United States seriously. Picture it. Now, envision her standing before the United Nations, delivering one of her infamous word salad speeches, talking in circles while world leaders exchange confused glances, trying to decipher what they just heard. Picture her in a high-stakes negotiation with China, Russia, or Iran, only to burst into awkward laughter when confronted with a difficult question. The consequences would be catastrophic. The embarrassment wouldn't just be national, it would be global. Our allies would cringe, unsure if they could rely on America's leadership, while our adversaries would smirk, emboldened by the lack of clarity and decisiveness at the top. If she struggles to get through a softball interview without stumbling over her own words, how could she possibly handle the responsibility of nuclear codes? Leadership demands strength, vision, and the ability to communicate with authority qualities Kamala Harris has repeatedly failed to demonstrate. A Harris presidency wouldn't just be a misstep. It would be a global spectacle, with America as the punchline.
Let's go to a more typical Kamala speech. This is from last week. I know you miss her vacuous word salads. I miss them.
Because then what do we have left? And the way that I see it also is that when we think about like these moments where we see things that are being taken, but also let's see it as nature abhors a vacuum. So where there's a vacancy, then let's fill it.
Yes, let's do that, Kamala. Let's do that right after happy hour is finished.
I don't want a president who sounds like they pregame before addressing the nation. I'm not saying she was intoxicated, but it certainly seemed that way. It appears that Kamala Harris is not just an expert at word salads, she also occasionally gives happy hour speeches. If you didn't know any better, you would assume she had just left a bottomless mimosa brunch based on her slurred phrases, exaggerated hand motions, and unexpected outbursts of laughter at nothing. Hey, perhaps that's the secret behind her. Well-known word salads, perhaps all of that incoherence is the result of too many Kamala's rounds rather than simply poor communication. Well, that may be a bit much, but with the awakened crowd, nothing is off limits if they can persuade themselves that guys can become pregnant and that inflation is beneficial, then thinking that Kamala's speeches are the product of a little too much. Whether it's word salads or wine spritzers, Kamala Harris is giving us plenty of reasons to be really worried. Chardonnay isn't that insane. That much is certain.
He is replacing the vice president. It's very popular. It seemed to work out. Here's the problem with the Democratic Party. They're so boxed in by identity politics that you cannot conceive of a Democratic ticket that doesn't have a woman, person of color on it, and pretty soon you're going to line up behind that gay, Latino, and you're going to have, a deaf Eskimo.
Bill Maher's right, people are struggling to pay their bills because of skyrocketing inflation, failing policies, and a government more focused on virtue signaling than actual solutions, not because of a lack of diversity initiatives. The sooner the Democratic Party stops caving in to identity politics and starts addressing the true needs of Americans, the better off they will be. But do you know what would really help their political campaign? Getting rid of Kamala Harris, who is a liability because every time she speaks, she either embarrasses herself or exposes the administration's blatant incompetence. Instead of being a historic, groundbreaking vice president, she has become a joke. And if Democrats think they can just quietly push her aside, they're going to face another challenge from the woke mob they created. So they'll be damned if they keep her and damned if they don't. However, if Kamala Harris is the future of the Democratic Party, then the future looks very bleak. That's all for today, people. If you enjoyed our frank commentary, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this one.